here. So excellent. Okay, let's get going here. The challenge. I do have the proposed agenda. I also have a detailed agenda that I put in the invitation, and I'm hoping to cover those points as we go through. It's going to be a pretty packed agenda, so bear with me. I'm hoping that we can get through all of the stuff, but we may actually have to have some follow-up discussions. So again, thank you everyone for attending this call. I'm pretty excited about this this project. It's kind of how I would say it's multiplied itself. We started this process almost 2 years ago, and started to think about some innovation challenges in the space of decentralized identity, self-sovereign identity, blockchain, etc., and worked with key partners. One of them, of course, is Innovation Science Economic Development Canada. They operate the Innovation Solutions Canada program. Some of you may also be aware of the Built in Canada Innovation Program. I believe that's part of that as well. So ISET has been a very key partner in terms of managing the overall program. We also have procurement, PSPC, our procurement folks that have been absolutely crucial in the contracting aspect. Again, you know, there's the conceptual and the strategic aspect, but when you actually engage contractors, there's lots of contracting details, and really appreciate the work that Dwayne and his team have done, especially in helping us develop the statements of work and the awarding the contracts, which just went out last Friday. And then, of course, the challenge sponsors. Yours truly, TBS, is one of the co-sponsors, but we also have like our strategic partner, Shared Services Canada, that's been instrumental in this challenge as well. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Mark Pelado for a few words. Mark is the Senior Director for Enterprise Architecture and Strategic Direction over at Shared Services. And Mark, if you're on, I think you're on the line there. I saw you
Yes.
on video. You know, you wanted to offer a few words, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, so welcome everyone. Really glad to co-sponsor this with TBS. So Shared Services Canada has an envelope of $7.6 million a year to support the Innovative Solutions Canada program. We currently have 5 challenges in the works. This is our third challenge that we have a kickoff meeting with the industry. So really excited to do this with you guys. Really excited to collaborate with TBS on this challenge. Essentially, the way we work together with TBS on anything digital identity related is TBS is the business sponsor, essentially making all the decisions on where we need to go from a digital identity perspective. And Shared Services Canada would essentially operate whatever service we offer to citizens and employees. Currently, we have 2 service offerings. We call them ICM and ECM, so internal credential management service and an external credential management service. But the full digital identity realm is something that we're developing with TBS's leadership. So excited to do this. Welcome on board. Congratulations to everyone who qualified. Really excited to see where this will be going in the near future. So thanks everyone.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. Now, my director, Michael Goit, are you on the line? Did you want to say a few words?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Goit. I'm director of the Digital Identity Program team at Treasury Board of Canada. So, you know, I'm really excited about this challenge. You know, there's a lot of buzz and, you know, a lot of hype right now about verifiable credentials, portable credentials. There's so much opportunity here and so much promise. And I really look forward to using this process as a way to demonstrate, you know, technical readiness, the art of the possible, and use this as an opportunity to you know, formulate, future programs like Mark mentioned, we're looking at how the federal government in particular is going to be using some of these technologies in the future, and I think this is a great opportunity to really put a spotlight on all the work that's happening in Canada. So I thank you all for participating, and I look forward to seeing how this rolls out.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. And I just very quickly want to acknowledge my dear friend south of the border, Neil John, who is the technical director with the Department of Homeland Security, the Silicon Valley Innovation Program. We've been keeping tabs on this space for years, and we talk very closely. And the reason I'm acknowledging him because I stole a lot of his approaches for this program. Anil has run a very successful program, or is running a very successful program south of the border, and we've been comparing notes. So I've been using that as a model for the Canadian approach. Not to put you on the spot, Anil, but I don't know if you want to say a couple words if you want to.
I think you covered it very well. It's always great to bounce ideas off of our northern neighbors, and looking forward to seeing how we can ensure there is both cross-border interoperability in areas of shared interest, particularly supply chain security and digital credentialing, as well as global interoperability using standards-based approaches. So very much looking forward to, very much looking forward to everything that you guys are doing and collaborating with you with what we are doing as well.
Yeah, thanks so much, Anil. You touched on a couple of things. Like, not only do we want to have domestic interoperability, we want to have global interoperability as well. And so I think this is an opportunity for us to coordinate as a country, and then also to reach out to the other countries that are doing very similar initiatives. We're starting to find out all the initiatives that are happening, like in other parts of the world, Germany, etc., and just trying to bring that all together and basically share what we're learning. So what I'll do, I've got the agenda up here. I'm going to give a quick recap, a reminder. Actually, it was mostly for myself what this challenge is all about. There's a lot of detail. And it's good to refresh what we're trying to do. And then after that, we have the various vendors on the line. I've asked them to actually do a quick, like a 10-minute pitch, if you will, of our brief of what they're doing, the use case that they're focusing on. So everybody has a good, level of understanding what everybody's doing. And then we have a set of discussion topics that we'll try to get through as best we can around some of the specifics of the project. And then any remaining time we'll have for open discussion. Again, this is pretty new for us and pretty new for me, so bear with us as we run this program, if you will. And it's intended to be a collaborative effort out in the open, and it's really not only to benefit the Government of Canada in advancing the research and actually showing the business value, but it's to benefit all of you folks that are on the line. And as I said, I didn't do a specific roll call at the beginning, but not only do we have the partner organizations, we have the vendors, but there's a variety of participants from the various jurisdictions. I think Alberta's on the line. We have a few folks from Quebec, a few other folks as well that were of interest. We have the Digital Identity Lab that Pierre Roberge is operating. So we've got the key, I guess the core set of stakeholders that have an interest in this succeeding as a whole. And again, there's probably a few people that we've missed, but I'm hoping that we can actually expand the knowledge that we gain from this to a very wide audience. So let me get into the presentation here. I think I talked about this already. I don't need to go through that detail. I went back to the wording of the challenge. I recall when we put this together, again, going almost 2 years ago, we were looking at how we can actually take advantage of an emerging technology space, and things have changed as well. But I think we've pretty much hit what the spirit of the challenge, what we're trying to accomplish here. And I just highlighted the key points of, we're seeking portable, secure digital credentials. You've heard the term self-sovereign identity. There's other terms as well. I think the important part here is that it can be independently, cryptographically, and rapidly verified. using distributed ledgers. That may not be the only options, but with an approach that can give rise to a global digital verification platform that we talked about just earlier. I think it's really important that we want to have a very clear understanding of this ecosystem, so we don't actually sell ourselves short or paint ourselves into a corner of a technology that is not going to scale. The analogy that I give is that network protocols kind of went through this 20, 30 years ago. We don't want to put our bet on NetBEUI when TCP/IP was the winner in the end. And the context, the use cases, you'll see what the winning vendors propose as use cases, but we're seeing this as a generic infrastructure that can work for aviation security, so on and so forth, academic professional qualifications, and security clearance. And here's the key thing is that while these can be presented in digital forms, there's lots of bespoke applications out there, but as of yet, no widely adopted or standardized methods to issue and rapidly verify digital credentials. And then here's the other point is that really there exists no current capability, systemic capability to digitally verify without dependencies on centralized or low latency networks or both. So and another point is that what we're doing is just respecting our sovereignty, is that all the stuff that we're doing needs to be kept within Canada. But hey, if the architecture, if we get it right, there's absolutely no personal information that's flying around in databases. Then going back up, just mandatory outcomes. Again, I just did a cut and paste right out of the challenge. User-centric verifiable digital credentials. Yes, it's a bit of a word salad in the terminology, but that's what we landed on a while back. We'll see, it's verifiable credentials, whatever it might be. The label's not really that important, but I think we have a good understanding of the tech. Protecting privacy and identity goes without saying. Incorporate emerging and or mature specifications that have been funded by DHS. As well as there's stuff with the W3C, the Decentralized Identity Foundation. There's stuff from the IETF as well. There's a lot of stuff that's there, and the variety of standards, JavaScript, object notation, JSON LD, but there's some other standards there as well that we want to take a look at. So not only incorporate, but also demonstrate the feasibility of the specifications. The prize here is not only to show that the stuff works. Actually, that's the primary focus of this challenge, but we will have a follow-on challenge that we can actually in phase 2 explore further how we might scale this up. And we know that there are various implementations. We put block certs and Hyperledger Aries, Hyperledger Indy and Aries, but we know that there's some other possible implementations as well, and we can talk about that later. And another point too is adhering to the applicable policy instruments. Again, from a federal perspective, we have our Treasury Board Directive on Identity Management. We have conformance criteria in the public sector profile, the Pancane Trust Framework. And I guess the latest and greatest thing that's not on here yet is that we do have like a national voluntary standard that was just approved by the CIO Strategy Council and accredited by the Standards Council of Canada. That's the Digital Trust and Identity Standard. So we want to see how these solutions actually relate to those standards that are being developed along with the conformance criteria. Additional outcomes. Nice to haves for the challenge, but I view that these are key things that we want to have in enduring solutions. So we do want to keep those in sight of the work that we're doing. I think one of the most important parts for me, and I would say for the governments, is number 6, that we can actually demonstrate multiple partnerships and interoperability. And that was actually the rationale for organizing this challenge as it is that we have 6 vendors, and we recognize that each of them have their, competitive aspects or intellectual property, so on and so forth. But this challenge, along with the arrangements of the contracts that we have with the vendors, we absolutely want to respect any intellectual property, but we recognize that this has to build out into a larger ecosystem that's larger than the Government of Canada, It's larger than any one vendor. It's actually larger than Canada itself. So we just want to make sure that what we do encourages that. And that's one of the reasons why we're keeping as much of the information out in the open, so that we can share it and expand the surface area of the ideas and the expertise that we develop. With that, I'll hand it over to the vendors. This is we had 6 vendors, and we had quite the range of proposals. Give you an idea of the numbers, we were actually quite shocked at the response that we got. I think we got 42 respondents, and then we put together a panel to review all of the proposals and rate them and go through the mandatories and that. I think was it 20 made the cut in terms of the mandatories, and then through the rated requirements, we landed on these as the top 6. So congratulations to the vendors. You're basically the cream of the crop. And that's not me just saying it. It's an independent review of the panel. So, we have an A team here. So I really appreciate that. And so, with that, I'll hand it over to Blue Ink. Is Steve on the line? And again, as I said, give you 10 minutes. So you got like till 10:30. And if you have a deck or anything that you want to share, just let me know, and then I can give you the ability to actually share your deck. So either Steve or Larry on the line.
I am on the line, Tim, and I would give a deck with a quick overview of what we do today and what we want to do in this challenge, if that's good.
Okay. See, I unshared myself. See if you can actually grab the, I think you can.
Yeah, seems to work.
Okay.
And just let me know if you can't see this.
You can see that? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Excellent. So thanks very much for the intro, Tim. Glad to know we're the cream of the crop with 5 other companies here. I am Steve Borza. I'm the CEO of Blue Ink, and we are the company behind elD-Me, which is identity proofing and a digital identity on your smartphone. It's available today across Canada in Ontario, BC, and Quebec, and soon to roll out in a bunch of other Western provinces, and then we'll start heading east. The real issue we're trying to solve is eliminating passwords in logins. We've recently had some high-profile issues with passwords here in Canada, and we're looking to solve that for government and for businesses as well. How do I prove to myself who I am? The government says I should use my passport or identity cards, but they don't work well online. So we're looking to give governments, companies, and citizens a workable e-identity so that they can leverage e-services securely. And if we can do that, then we can transform business processes from inline to online and do it securely, and actually more secure than the old school inline processes. So elD-Me is a fully formed digital identity solution released this March publicly. We've got over, I think, 10,000 users have enrolled now and have an eID on their phone. It is identity verification plus a digital identity, originally built in response to the Government of Ontario's Digital Identity Challenge. It is a privacy respecting, we would call it sovereign identity. It's user-centric, it's decentralized. It can work online and offline. We've mapped to the Pan Canadian Trust Framework. Any information a user shares is with their consent, and it's a bilingual and accessibility enabled app. There are really 3 components to this: identity proofing or KYC onboarding. That does give you a FinTrack compliant KYC. Once you prove who you are in an enroll from home scenario, we issue a secure digital wallet. And we've followed the mobile driver's license, or MDL spec, under the ISO specification. As well, we can issue an e-passport and an e-health card. E-passport, we've mapped more to the ICAO EMRTD standards, in that we're issuing an X509 certificate with all the claims in a passport digitally signed and hashed, so they can be verified cryptographically. Lastly, once you have an EID on your phone, you'll be able to do a password-free federated login to any system that federates to our IDP. And this login is a public key authentication, very similar to a FIDO U2F protocol, except using a certificate instead of keeping public keys on the sign-in server. We do tie identity proofing to the passport itself. So we are doing an active passport scan using the ICAO public key database to verify an image and personal information we receive from the passport. So that's kind of the root of our identity proofing until provinces allow access to their back-end driver's license databases. The passport truly is the best global document that's cryptographically verifiable in our minds. We do achieve an IAL2 without accessing any government databases when we use a passport in the identity proofing. Once you have your EID, as I mentioned, you can use your phone to do a token-based login. It does a public key authentication. The server sends a challenge, a private key in the phone's hardware digitally signs the challenge, and a public key authenticates at the server. And then to the relying party, a SAML or an OpenID Connect token-based login is executed. In the end, you have a fast, convenient KYC from mobile. The login eliminates passwords, eliminates phishing attacks and password hacks. This is a decentralized identity solution. There is no personal information target created. Everyone's personal information is on their phone in an encrypted container. SSO, because it's SAML and OpenID Connect based, you can connect in hours, not weeks or months of work to incorporate a login solution. So this can work for employees, for customers, and for citizens. Little architecture of what a federated login looks like. You have an IDP in the middle. End users log into that IDP using their phone. And in the SAML and OpenID Connect protocols, personal information can be attached to that login claim and then passed to the relying party over SAML and OpenID Connect token-based login. So if your Active Directory or Active Directory Federation services on-prem, you can connect to an IDP using SAML. Applications can connect directly using SAML and OpenID Connect. And cloud-based CIAM solutions like Azure AD, Okta, or ForgeRock could all connect as well. So this truly maps to a modern hybrid cloud architecture that we find ourselves in today. We can also do IoT device authentication, which is part of our proposal with TBS. Things like a zero-contact kiosk or doors or airport check-in, which has become more important since we wrote the proposal in the context of COVID and not passing identity documents between people. So in this project, it's a proof of concept to show appending a security clearance to a government worker digital identity is our proposal. We're going to demonstrate this by adding decentralized identifiers, W3C verified credentials, and JSON LD into our solution as a proof of concept, kind of looking at adding the ability to have a DID, a decentralized identifier wallet, as part of our existing wallet. So this will incorporate mobile, portable, decentralized security check into our existing elD-Me digital identity. And we're looking forward to demonstrating interoperability with the other partners in this project, as well as interoperability with IoT endpoint devices, such as door access or our zero-touch kiosk check-in. A little bit on the value proposition for this project. The federal government processes 400,000 security clearances a year today. Only 280,000 are actually required. But because you have people who may be applying at different departments, each department is pushing through a security clearance, meaning you have 120,000 duplicate clearances being done today. Approximately 6 million in simply fingerprint process savings is available by digitizing this and have a portable security clearance. 30,000 person days could be saved. This savings doesn't actually include the back-end savings to the federal departments that process those security clearances. So the savings is probably double in dollar figures and higher in man days saved.
Okay, Steve, you got 30 seconds left. Okay, there
So
we go. Looks like
we do see further savings would be realized by the private sector in having a portable security clearance available when they're doing business, either business to business or business to government. And that's a wrap on Blue Ink and what we're doing. And our goal is to enable digital identities everywhere.
awesome. Thanks so much, Steve. I guess one of the key points that I want to make is that not only do we want to improve the technical interoperability, but we also want to work with what I've been calling use case partners that actually can realize the business value. And we've had discussions with various government departments that see value in this. So that's why this use case is very attractive. Okay, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Aviary Tech. Did I say that right? Is it Brian that's on the line? Are you there?
Yeah, it's Aviary. Yeah.
Aviary. Okay, there we go. Sometimes you just see stuff in writing and you never actually hear it, or so Aviary. So I'll hand it over to you, Brian. If you have any deck or you just want to talk, it doesn't, just however you wish to go.
Yeah, I have a bit of a deck here.
Okay. So you got 10 minutes. So you have the floor.
Cool. So good morning, everyone. So I'm Brian Richter. I'm the founder of Aviary Technologies. I founded the company only 2 years ago, as you can see from our org book entry here. So it's, as I say, that's probably the youngest company in this panel here. So I'm excited to learn from all the great vendors on the list. When I founded the company, my main goal was to, bring around better digital identity for everyone in the world. And with that, I was excited to get an opportunity to work with the government of British Columbia and help them in the liquor and cannabis regulation branch, help them distribute credentials for cannabis licenses. With this, I worked closely with we worked closely with the Verifiable Organizations Network, and we managed to use their technology and the areas of protocols that they are working towards and get in the fold there and issue credentials from our issuance database of the liquor and cannabis regulation branch, and use the verifiable digital credentials based on the sovereign ledger, use them to distribute credentials to the org book. The org book is a public verifiable credential registry that is now public data, and it gives insight to the public in reading public organization data. And so the cannabis regulation branch, in this process, they learned quite a few interesting things about how these credentials can benefit the public. And one of the main benefits was the enhanced ability to confirm that businesses are in legitimate standing. So this allows them to confirm the statuses in real time, which is previously impossible, and it enables compliance and enforcement capabilities on a scale that has been possible in the past. One problem that we noticed with these credentials was that they are not held by the licensees. They're issued and they're just a public, pretty looking credential that people can look at. It does give them confidence, gives the user, the customers confidence that their store that they're buying their cannabis from is legitimate, but there isn't really much going on behind the scenes or for the users. So our goal is to demonstrate the benefits that we can gain when we put these credentials into the hands of the licensees and also give credentials to federal license producers and allow them to interact without government oversight, because the credentials will be issued by provincial and federal departments. So our proof of concept is to issue and verify issuance and verification of credentials for cannabis-related interactions. And we will demonstrate how cannabis licensees can use their government-issued verifiable credentials to coordinate directly with the federal supply chain, rather than relying on the many integrations currently required. This is going to allow federal producers to trust that credentials are granted by provincial or territorial authorities, and they can sell their products directly to licensees without the need for intermediaries. And we're also going to allow programs and service delivery managers to accept digital identities, as an alternative to in-person interactions, and give them a simple interface to configure verifying agents. So as I said, we're a fairly new company, and we're really excited to get to work with all the great vendors on this list and prove interoperability in the real world. Yeah, that's all I got. Thanks.
Great. Thanks so much. And I guess the key thing here is, again, this is an area that I'm not that familiar with myself. And you do have a good relation with the various authorities, licensing authorities in the province of BC, and I'm hoping that we can actually reach out to Health Canada to be interested in this use case as well. So really appreciate that, Brian. Well, you did that under your time. Is there any other things that you want to bring up or discuss, or?
No, I'd like to mention I have my colleague Jordan on the line, one of my great developers. I also have Helen Photos, who I'm working closely with, and she's a consultant for the Attorney General of British Columbia. And I have another few great partners as well in that regard.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks. Thanks so much. Okay, with that, why don't we hand it over to Secure Key? Do we have, like, I think Mike was on the line, Dimitri, there's a few folks from Secure Key, and Eric, you're probably on the call as well. So whoever wants to take the lead, it's all yours.
Thanks, Tim. It's Eric Swiderski here. Appreciate this. We don't have a deck, so I'm just gonna talk through, and it'll be less than 10 minutes for sure.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so Secure Key Technologies, we're a Toronto-based company. Seeing as to the collaborative nature of this work, really like to take the opportunity to intro some of the key players from Secure Key who are here on the call and will be involved. So I'm Eric Swiderski. I lead public sector engagement for the company in Canada. And then we've got 4 other people here that I'll kind of go through alphabetically and just have them say hi and introduce themselves. So Dimitri.
Hello, so my name is Dimitri Barinov. I'm a CTO at Secure Key. We're looking forward for this collaboration. We're looking forward to doing the W3C standards compliant interop with everyone and contributing to the digital identity in Canada.
Thanks, Dimitri. Mike?
Yeah, hi, Mike Varley, also obviously from Secure Key Architect, and I've been involved with the SVIP program in DHS, and hope to bring that experience to this collaboration. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Sandrine.
Hi, so I'm Sandrine Telekop, Program Delivery Manager. I'm very excited to join the project.
And last but certainly not least, Troy.
Good morning, everybody. This is Troy Ronda from Secure Key. My role is Chief Scientist. I spend a lot of time leading our team on an initiative we call TrustBlock, and TrustBlock is implementing the various standards we discussed, such as DIDs, the verifiable credentials, interop based on work such as CHAPI and DIDCOM, and I'm excited to be working with everybody here.
Thanks, Troy. So very quickly, I'll just say a little bit about Secure Key and some of the things that we're doing for folks who aren't aware. As I said, Toronto-based company, we're really focused on digital identity and authentication, and now digital identity and data sharing. You may be familiar with the Secure Key Concierge service, which is sort of one of the initial public-private kinds of implementations around federated authentication for using online banking login with the government. And so, as was earlier mentioned, the external credential management work with the Government of Canada has been in place for about 10 years, and about 10 million Canadians are using that currently. Where that has kind of gone, and the basis for our involvement here is around our more modern and evolutionary service called elD-Me in Canada. This is a user-centered identity and data sharing network. It was launched in production about a year and 4 months ago in Canada, built on distributed ledger technology, and really brings together sort of the factors of what I am, what I know, and what I have. It's backed by the large financial institutions, telcos, credit agencies in the country, and also, really focuses on any high assurance use case. So legal, public sector, and all sorts of commercial use cases as well. We at Secure Key, and you could get a sense from some of the comments from Troy, Mike, Dimitri, we're very committed to standards-based approaches and interoperability. And so our proposal was really about extending that platform and looking at moving to some of this new standards work around verifiable credential, and particularly around the interoperability of that. So we'll be looking at issuer, verifier, acceptor. We've been, I guess, sort of slotted into a bank account or financial institution, financial product opening use case that has a very particular regulatory requirements around know your client and anti-money laundering. And so that will be the primary use case, though we're certainly excited to sort of see the extensibility of that and potentially look at other things as well through this. So that's the very basic overview of us and sort of what our focus will be. Happy to answer any questions now. I think we might have a couple minutes, and if not, then we look forward very much to working with you all.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eric. And I also want to add, like, Secure Key has quite a bit of experience, tons of experience with the Silicon Valley Innovation Program. I think going back to 2016, you've been working with Anil and company. So really excited for you to bring that experience forward, not only the technical aspect, but just being part of that program. And you were part of the Plug Fest earlier this year. So really excited to bring that experience forward.
Yes, absolutely.
So you do have a couple of minutes left, so if there's any questions, quite happy to use the time for that.
No, happy to defer to next, and maybe we can get into joint discussion later. So all good. Thanks, Tim.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Okay, next up is TerraHub, and do we have Dan on the line?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good, good.
Thanks, Tim, for having us. So I also don't have a deck. I would rather just kind of speak to what we're doing.
Yeah, that's great.
And I'll just turn on my camera so at least I can say hi to people face to face. So a little bit about us and our background. So we started our careers in building some of the first networks in oil and gas invoicing and transportation logistics. Our transportation logistics network actually ended up becoming and was secured by the US EPA to model their regulations that are currently deployed in 48 out of the 50 states to date. So a lot of our background really comes from oil and gas on-site access and capabilities for people to show up and provide their credentials and certificates to be able to put their hands on tools. A little bit about the work that we're doing to date. So we recognized obviously that the traditional networks were going to be disrupted, hence our latest focus in the world of distributed technologies. And because of that, we ended up having to look into how do we create independently cryptographically and rapidly verify an individual's ability to perform a job or enter a site without the need for third-party verification. So for us, it was about providing instant worker credentials verification for all relevant actors and authorities, where operations really span multiple geographical areas and organizational boundaries. So that really is the premise of the work that we came in to do and to provide, and looking at how do we create an individual's recertifications options based on expiry, geography, and site-specific needs. And the interoperability component for us is going to be key to ensure that not just us, but some of the other parties on the line today, we all get a chance to work together and see how we can bring that component to market. Currently, we're launched in over 30 countries with different associations and post-secondaries. And the one post-secondary out of Canada that I can speak to right now is Bow Valley College out of Calgary, Alberta, that's launching the product successfully. And all of their students and members will be directly using the TerraHub Digital Certification Credentialing Network. So that's really a little bit about us. I have other team members on the line today from our CTO, heads of research and development team. And we're all really excited to be here and be a part of the journey with you guys. So thank you for having us.
Thanks, Dan. And again, I'm really excited because I'm seeing a lot of what's been done in the oil and gas industry highly adjacent to like aviation security, and travel. I know we have Transport Canada on the line here as well. I don't want to speak on their behalf, but we see a lot of potential that what you're doing can actually be applied in other contexts as well. So again, as I said, we're looking for our use case partners that want to see how they can derive value from not only the use case, but also the tech underneath. So again, thanks again for being part of the challenge.
Thank you, and that's very exciting to hear that Transport Canada is on the line. We've actually had a chance to work with Transport Canada in the past in our previous technology for the movement of dangerous goods across Canada, and we ended up working quite closely after the Megan-Seek situation. So we're very excited to have them back at the table.
Oh, fabulous! That's great. Okay, thanks a lot. So next we have Trust Science. I think Chris, you're on the line with your team, so the floor is yours.
Yeah, so great to meet everybody. It's Chris Matichuk, CTO of Trust Science. I have a few other people on the team as well that I'll introduce. What I'll do is I'll just give a quick overview of the company first, and then I'll introduce a few of our members on the team, and then I'll have one of the team members talk a bit about what we will be doing as a part of this. So Trust Science is we provide credit scoring to subprime and near prime lending institutions in both US and Canada. For example, companies like Magical Credit in Toronto, if you're in the Toronto area, or Eden Park, places like that. We're the credit scoring engine behind it. We work with all of the bureaus, so the Credit, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion across borders, both US and Canada. We use also public data. We have several sources, plus we have our own source. And as you can imagine, with any kind of credit scoring, there's a significant amount of personal information that we process and we use. And there's also issues of bias that we have to take into account. And there's a lot of regulatory in US for sure, along with how we use this data and how we store it, how we process it. And so this is a very, very critical and important and core area of our business, is processing information. Back a little over 2 years ago, it was clear to me that at some point in the future, the information we need to access in order to do credit scoring in individuals will change. And as that changes, the type of individual that could lose out of this is actually not so much the people that have great credit ratings, but you got people that don't have so good credit, and you need to look at other types of data points in order to help them get a loan that they need. And so a little over 2 years ago, I saw the trend with self-sovereign identity and the DIDs and where this is all heading. And it became clear to me that that is the trajectory that I needed Trust Science to be on. And so we have been a sovereign steward, for example. I think we're number 15 sovereign students, and we've been running a node for that. We've been involved in the Hyperledger Indy. I looked at probably at the time about 50 different technologies that were out there, and I saw what was happening with Indy as I felt pretty promising, and then that's evolved over to Aries now as well. And so we've also done prototypes over the past couple of years. We've contributed to the open source as well, and we've been involved in the working groups, but off and on. It hasn't been a core set of our business, so we haven't integrated this into our product as of yet, and because we haven't hit that business case that would really justify it. But I believe in it, and I have believed in it, and we've invested quite a bit over the last couple of years as far as in research and understanding it. Hopefully that gives enough about what our business is and what we do. I'll introduce a few of the individuals on the team. I'm going to start with Michael, and if you can introduce yourself, and then I'll give the next person's name after that. So Michael, go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Michael, and so I lead the governance engineering efforts here at Trust Science, and specifically for this project, I'll be the program manager.
Charles?
Hi, my name is Charles Lanahan. My title is data scientist, but in the startup world, I end up doing a lot of stuff at Trust Science, and one of the most exciting places to work has been this the prototypes that Chris just mentioned that we've been working on and off on for the past couple of years.
Okay, Ashley?
Yeah, I'm Ashley Snellgrove. I oversee the application and API development at Trust Science.
Neil?
Hi, I'm Neil Bourgeois. I'm a developer with Trust Science and looking forward to getting into the digital identity stuff, especially as it pertains to embedding inside of mobile and web applications.
Did I miss anybody else from Trust Science that's on the call? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to hand this over to Charles to talk a little bit more about what our project is. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, so as Chris mentioned, we've been in this space a long time. We've developed a couple prototypes, and we're always trying to look to integrate that into business use cases that we operate in. As an analytics company in the financial space, a lot of the things we do are kind of find proxies for employment and for payroll and business processes like that. So our particular use case we picked is we're going to try to use an employment verification system that's decentralized, that will allow all the stakeholders in the process, the employers, the employees, and the Canadian government entities to kind of operate in a decentralized fashion using Hyperledger Aries, Hyperledger Indy, and the the various protocols that everyone's been mentioned before. We hope it'll be more secure, more decentralized, and greater ease of use. And as Chris mentioned, yeah, we're hoping to move that into these use cases that I just mentioned about payroll, employee verification, and things that are right now. We do a lot of kind of figuring out these things by proxy through scraping or through ingesting other data sources, and having these kind of capabilities in our apps in the future will really help us out.
Yeah, I should add on to this. Right now, as part of our product, we do have something called we have a console that our lenders use, but we also have another app that we call Trust Start. This Trust Start is where the lender needs to get, they can get information, user authorized specific information from the user. We have an app that the lender could along with the lending score request, can hit a flag that will cause our system to send out a message to the user to indicate we need some additional specific information on you as a part of this credit scoring activity. Primarily, we use that for banking, so we collect up to a year of banking transactions that we process for individuals. We'll collect utility information. We'll collect social information, and again, this is basically on a per use where the user authorizes us to access all of this information and use it as a part of our processing and scoring. So clearly, we're processing lots of data, and I believe that we have several cases in the course of what we're doing right now where we can apply this technology.
Okay, you got 1 minute left.
We're done. I'm done.
Okay, awesome. I want to say I'm really excited about this, like especially in relation to Service Canada and CRA, like where, there's a huge requirement to have a proof of income or a proof of employment or whatnot, and it's more than a pretty PDF. Like if there's an ability that you can actually download a verifiable credential and actually again have the information under your control, stuff that we've been talking about. And again, this is a segment of the economy that I'm not that familiar with. So I really appreciate you coming to the table with this. So I really appreciate that, Chris and team. Great. Next, we have 2 keys. Is that Neil, or I think John Spicer was on the line as well?
Tim, it's Sean. I'll take the lead.
Okay, Sean. Okay, there we go. The floor is yours.
Hi, all. Sean Healy from 2 Keys. We have many people from 2 Keys on the phone, and we also have some of our extended family from Interac on the call as well. I'll just give you a brief overview of 2 Keys. So we've been in business for more than 22 years. We currently operate many authentication services for the Government of Canada, both external and internal, the province of Nova Scotia, and the Government of Northwest Territories, as well as private sector customers. We're doing millions of authentications per day across all those customers. And what we've seen with those customers is that they've all gone through the journey to centralize authentication. And they're all trying to solve this same problem that we're all on here talking about today. How do you uniquely identify somebody online so that they can do both online and offline transactions? We were involved in a POC with the Government of Ontario through OCE. Steve from Blue Ink mentioned, and SecurKey, I believe, were in the same program. That POC for us focused on the use of a driver's license as the primary form of digital identity, as a verifiable credential that you could use both in an offline and online context. And during that POC, we strengthened our relationship with Interac that had initially formed through the DIAC. In 2019, we were acquired by Interac, and we're currently a wholly owned subsidiary of Interac. And so both 2 Keys and our parent Interac will be contributing to the POC. In 2020, we recently completed a POC with the BC government, and through that, and that happened through the DIAC, and that was to utilize the BC Services Card to access online services through a digital wallet. So again, a verifiable credential was generated and used within that program. So we're going to take all the lessons that we've learned from these various projects that we've done to develop verifiable credentials and the work that Interac's done, and we're going to bring them to this POC. Our POC is going to focus on foundational identity and the ability to strongly issue and verify back to source whenever and wherever possible. It's our belief, and it's also Interac's belief, that's why we came together, that it's critical to solve this foundational identity problem as it spans every area of our lives. It's healthcare, it's finance, it's telco, it's governments, it's travel. We really need to find a way to solve that foundational identity problem. And as private sector companies, we need to do whatever we can to support our public sector partners in making that happen. So for the POC, what we had envisioned is that we were going to focus on a digital birth certificate. We'd identified 4 different use cases we were going to focus on during the POC. Enrolling a newborn by obtaining a digital birth certificate, so kind of a verifiable claim at birth. Enrolling an adult for a digital birth certificate using a physical birth certificate. So this would be taking your physical document that you have and transforming that into a verifiable credential. It would then be enrolling for a health card using your digital birth certificate and any associated verifiable credentials. And then lastly, we wanted to, and again, this is time permitting, we'll have to see how this plays out over the course of the program. But we also wanted to investigate delegation or transfer of ownership of the digital certificate from a parent to an adult child. As Tim mentioned at the outset, we have some critical credentials we want to, and specifications we want to try to hit, verifiable credentials, DIDs, and JSON LD. And what we want to do is explore using both emerging standards to achieve these ends, both issuance and verification, but also looking at existing standards like OpenID Connect and FIDO, and using other established standards to achieve these same outcomes. And of course, we want to focus on usage and interoperability. The ability to, as I mentioned, generate and access that health card based on other verifiable claims and get a verifiable claim from that health card. And then, of course, interoperability and trying to look at how we can interoperate with the rest of the vendors in this program and see how we can exchange verifiable credentials and how we could potentially link that digital birth certificate into other POCs as part of this program. So we're excited to be a part of this, and we look forward to contributing as much as we can across the entire project. And that's it from 2Keys.
Great. Thanks, Sean. You actually have a few minutes left, but let me chip in. I just want to touch on a couple of themes here. Like we're seeing the emergence of a public utility here, and as Sean touched on, there are some emerging standards, but there's also some established standards that might be able to be refactored into this new model, and that's something personally I want to see to be explored. And as well, I think what you're learning from the various use cases here is that there's an incredibly rich ecosystem, but there's these common super patterns underneath, and the idea is to be able to build a capability, not only infrastructure capability, but whatever the processes that are required to plug into hospitals or into licensing offices or whatever that you can issue into and verify from. And the analogy that I give is that we're kind of at the state of where electricity utilities were back in the early 20th century. It used to be that you bought a light bulb service from the utility. They would come in and wire the light bulb and provide the switch, and then actually string the wire directly to your home. And that's kind of where we're at with a lot of these digital capabilities right now. You're buying up an end-to-end light bulb service that's wired right into like Niagara Falls generating station. That's not the case anymore. You have a grid and some standards. So I just wanted to make that point, that we're very interested in seeing how this would evolve into a public utility. So I kind of took up a bit of your time there, Sean. So you have a couple more minutes left if you want to have any questions or discuss anything.
Don't mind, Tim. You can take our time. I'll just open it up to if anyone else from 2Keys or Interact want to say anything, please do.
No, I think we're good, Sean. This is Neil. Thanks.
Okay, well, we'll hand it back to you, Tim.
Okay, great. So I'm just trying to get my slides here. Just bang on. I'm gonna share my screen to a detailed agenda. It was too much to put on the put on the screen earlier. Just bear with me. Screen 2. And I'll just yeah, so we've gone through number 3. I want to spend some time talking about, I've identified about 6 different topics. I just want to highlight them and then open it up for discussion and just hang on here. Okay. And get any collective feedback, and probably won't be able to come to closure on things, but at least make you aware of some of the things that we're thinking about in detail. So the first point, you're aware, we do have the collaborative repo that we have. You've got the link there. I invite you to become a member or raise issues or pull requests. We want to try to be as open as possible with the documentation. Maybe not necessarily work in progress as we're going through, but the expectation is that the material that's being produced in support of this project will be broadly available. Again, I think we've written it into the contracts. If you do have like secret sauce or intellectual property that you want to discuss with us, that's perfectly fine. So long as the capabilities that you're providing can actually be come through the standards-based APIs. So we'll work with you on that if you have any issues around like IP and what you can expose. Again, we're learning from this as well. So not so sure we have the complete and perfect formula. So any insights from you folks, that'd be great. We have the common work plan. As I said, we have 6 vendors, and what we decided to do when we got all the proposals and finalized them, we went through the proposals and teased out what we called a common work plan, the commonalities, and that's where we got all the various use cases. So the various proposals and the contracts, well, the proposals had different approaches in some respects, but what we're asking for the first deliverable the next couple of weeks is basically take a look at your proposal and basically map it into the common work plan. And we've identified all the various deliverables in there, and so that we can have a detailed project plan. It really is just recasting what you've had in your proposal into the project plan so we can manage it, and we're hoping to have that by September 30th. It's not producing new material per se, it's basically just refactoring what you had in your proposals into that project plan. And so the first major deliverable is going to be the draft standards-based approach. And again, I don't have all the detail in front of me here, but we spec'd out what we're looking for in terms of the deliverable. One of the things that we're starting to work on in earnest is that interoperability test suite. It's still in its beginning phases, but there's going to be a lot of work done beforehand. I think as Sean stated and a few others, there's a lot of standards at play and approaches at play out there. It's really hard to stay on top of all this stuff that's going on. You know, there's indie Aries, there's the, you know, a lot of traditional stuff as well, and there's some other, there's trust over IP, there's decentralized identifiers, there's a real like pea soup of standards, and we've been trying to track it as best we can with the digital ecosystem markdown file that we have on the repo, and we'll be updating it as we discover new things. But really what we're hoping for you folks to do is to take your collective knowledge, not only apply it to what you will be doing as solutions, but also bringing that together in a technical review workshop, which we want to schedule the week of October 26th. So we're looking for the draft documents on October 19th. We want to set up a show and tell discussion session, probably a half day or so. I think that's all we could do remotely without having our brains burning out, to compare notes and discuss approaches and how the stuff is going to work together. And then based on that, update the documents, updating the standards-based approach. I would also add, not only can you work with us if you have questions, but there's no reason why the vendors, you can actually work amongst yourselves either bilaterally or whatnot. to land on things. We don't have to be in the loop or be the signal check of every interaction. But the idea is that coming out of that technical review workshop, we have a pretty good sense of the solutions that are going to be built, and that will be the next major part of the project. So you'll see, after you update the document November 6th, we have quite a bit of time, well, relatively speaking, November to February 15th, where we want to have a finalized standards-based approach, meaning that things might have changed, something you might have learned during implementation. You've got a few months to not only develop your prototype, but revector any of the thinking that we've done that may be right, wrong, or just needs to be elaborated. But by the number 6, the technical demonstration workshop, that will basically be the show and tell how your stuff actually works together. And this is where we have been drawing upon the Silicon Valley Innovation Program model. So we want more than just, yep, we're interoperable. We actually want to see it. We want to see it with actual working software, and also interoperability between the various vendors. Doesn't mean every vendor has to interoperate with one another. I think that's the stuff we'll sort out, is what's feasible, what's practical, what makes sense, and work that through. I don't have the answers yet, but the idea here is that there has to be some modicum of interoperability, maybe not necessarily perfect interoperability between the vendor solutions. And the way I'm looking at it, and we've got some thinking on the go that we can actually share with you and iterate. It's really, and this is just Tim speaking, just with my own perspective and analysis. It's about being able to issue into a network and verifying from a network, and ensuring that it's the in certain situations it's the right or the same holder. Recognizing that there's got to be digital wallets that have to accept and present these things, and there's a bunch of usability stuff. My view is that the real priority of this challenge is to have that interoperability at the core, if you will, and allow the flexibility for the digital wallets. And again, just observing the digital wallet space and the discussions, there's a lot of discussion of what exactly is a digital wallet, and how it should look, and what the user experience is. Frankly, I don't know what the answers are, and it may be completely different in completely different circumstances. And my view is that our focus is to really have that almost invisible infrastructure underneath that enables all of these particular use cases. It's kind of like 120 volts alternating a current standard, and you just plug something in and it works. And then based on the outcome of the technical demonstration workshop, to produce the final proof of concept report. There is in the statement of work a standard format that we need to abide by. We can have some flexibility, but the requirements of the program is that we actually, or you folks, the vendors, actually produce in accordance with that format. So we'll work that through, and that's something too. I've actually talked to our contracting people. If we have to do any type of contract amendment or whatever, we can do that, but we need to focus on that report format. So again, the way I used to do projects in university is that what your report format is at the end. You start thinking about how you're going to produce that deliverable, and sometimes just back it up from there to make sure your activities kind of feed into that. So why don't I just open it up for discussion on those aspects. If anybody has any questions or concerns or takeaways for us to actually address in more detail, I'll open it up to see if anybody has any points to make on the common work plan and also the collaborative repo stuff, and then we'll move on to the other points.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, everyone. This is Elena from TerraHub. I wanted to pose a question to the other vendors, specifically those that deal with the issuance of digital identity. I'd be very interested in collaborating with you on connecting that digital identity into the work that we're doing, which is really more on the credentialing side, skills, and things of that nature. So just putting that out there. If you would like to get in touch offline after this call, that'd be lovely. Or if you'd like to chat about that now, that would also work great.
And I see some raised hands here. I'll just go through them. Dimitri, you have your hand up?
Yes. Thanks a lot. Just addressing Elena's comment, for sure, we will be very happy to connect from security side. But I raised the hand because of the other reason. So when I look at the common work plan, right, obviously it's well thought of, and I understand that it's still maybe work in progress. But it probably would be very good to have actually a timeline where we decide on the finalization of the interoperability test suite, because based on our previous experience, that was one of the most interesting and challenging tasks in working with other solutions. And we have basically the basis of the test suite, which is documented in the requirements for this project, right? It's in some appendix, but probably just adding, maybe just specifying on the common work plan coordination when we're going to finalize the test suite, that would be very important from our perspective.
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head on the stuff that's keeping us up right now, and we've started our own preliminary work. We haven't exposed anything yet on the GitHub repo. We'll be working closely with Anil John as well and drawing upon that experience. So that is something, as you said, we have to nail down sooner than later. I view that that's on our critical path. So that's something that we need to work on ourselves to nail that down, but also work with you folks collaboratively. So I don't have a neat and tidy answer yet, other than the fact that, again, the initial thoughts, it's going to be proved by implementation, not just saying that you're actually compliant, because we've learned that there's oftentimes devil in the detail, and just actually nailing down the absolute minimum. This other thing too, the absolute minimum that we need to focus on interoperability. Don't have the tidied up answers yet, but Dimitri, I assure you that's something that we're going to be like super duper focused on. So Mike, you have your hand up as well.
Yeah, so just again to sort of follow up on Dimitri's comment, and this is actually more for the group, is that we'll need to establish some communication channels. Those are also very important. So initially starting with email is fine, but having I don't know if it's a Slack channel or a Teams group or some way where we can collaborate on where we're going to interop and how we're going to build out those test suites, and then a regular cadence of meetings just among the companies is something we should establish as soon as we can to open those lines of communication.
Slack,
yeah,
please.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to emphasize a couple of points. Like another key outcome of this challenge is to catalyze the industry, and we don't have to be in the center of every interaction. If we are, we're just going to be a bottleneck and annoying everyone. So there's no reason for that. Was the primary motivation for this call, is just to get for the folks to get to know each other, and you can surface as required stuff that we need to put into the test suite, for example. But we don't need to be privy to all those discussions. So yeah. Anil, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Tim. So as respect respective representatives of our respective sovereigns, I absolutely have no intention of stepping on any toes here. So I'll just mention that, especially in the self-sovereign world, I'll simply note just from our experience in getting together a group of vendors together in order to work on interoperability. I think Dimitri sort of danced around this. It takes a lot longer than you expect in order for true interoperability to be achieved. The one recommendation that I would basically note is, to your point, I was gratified to see that you mentioned that you are looking at a test suite. Without making any recommendations, please note that one of the choices that we made in our program was to make sure that we directed all of the companies that were under contract to us and are under contract to us to work on the test suite publicly under the W3C Credential Community Group, and to make sure that test suite is updated and kept up to date within that particular context. So my companies, I think we have 7 or 8 with our release 2 cycle that is going out. They will be continuing to refine the test suite that is out there. It is open to anybody, not just the companies within our portfolio. That was deliberate. And that is the test suite that we are using in order to ensure at least the baseline interop on the APIs as well as the support for the standards, right? So one of the options is obviously, I am funding the companies contractually to make sure that they contribute and expand the surface area of that test suite. And obviously that is something that you can bootstrap off of if it is appropriate to your context. The other point that I will note is multi-party interoperability is critically important. There is a lot of hand waving in this space, and people think that it is easy. And the companies in our portfolio discovered that the choices that they had to make in sort of constraining and profiling the standards that we all are focused on took a lot more work, and a lot more argument, and a lot more yelling and screaming in order to reach that true interop as well. So I would make sure that there is that communication channel that that Mike mentioned is definitely set up, because all vendors will have a set of things that they can collaborate on, and they will also have business drivers that have their own magical sauce that they can build on top of that interoperability. So there is some stuff that we've done that we would love to collaborate with you, but I defer to you on how you want to drive it forward.
Yeah, and to add to Anil's points there, ideally we could actually leverage an interoperability test suite that's out there. But what we have to be very cognizant of is the body behind that test suite, the standards body or the organization, yep, and have a good feel of vendor influence or whatever influence, good or bad. Just saying, not making any moral judgments or anything like that. The key thing here is that we are trying to play the long game here on developing this digital infrastructure. And so what's going through my thinking process is, whatever standard that might be or aspects of a standard, in the long run, does that actually turn into a constraint or dependency or a lock-in? And if there's any doubt about that, then that's something that we may leave out of the interoperability test suite. Basically, I'm a big fan of minimalism. If in doubt, throw it out. And so if there's something that looks really cool, but it's not actually absolutely crucial for that long game, then let's leave it out. And again, my current thinking is that digital wallets are totally crucial, but what's more important is the infrastructure right now. The best model that I've seen so far, and again, this is just Tim's thinking, is the level 1 that's being articulated by Trust over IP. That's one of the newer models. Whether that's the model or not, that remains to be seen. Just like in the early days of the internet, there was the OSI 7-layer model, and that basically the more pragmatic, the 4-layer model with TCP/IP won out in the end, and that wasn't because that's what everybody's chose to focus on. So we're in those early days. So I just want to make those points, and quite frankly, we're just asking of you, being part of this challenge, to help us out as a government, Canadian government, and presumably the provincial and territorial governments, and working with other governments such as the US and other countries to help us figure this out collectively. And also, there's a new social bargain that's being developed right now. You're seeing in the paper. I won't surveil emphasize it, but trying to move away from the surveillance economy and really building a new architecture. So again, that's the end of the Tim speak, but that gives you an idea of where I'm coming from, and hoping that this challenge is going to help inform where we should be going. So any more comments on the common work plan?
Tim, Steve Borza here. I'd just like to make one comment on test suite, and I think Anil's comments were very valid. Our experience with FIDO U2F and their test suites, proved a problem with implementation and understanding of use cases, and not being able to comply with the standard, but the test suite wasn't built to interpret the standard properly, and so it becomes building for the specific test suite versus building to the standard, and that is a complex problem that I don't think we have time and money to overcome. It would be good if there's a bare bones test suite that shows some API interoperability, as Anil mentioned, but it is highly complex. FIDO had hundreds of members in FIDO Alliance, and they broke a bunch of stuff in FIDO 2, and then implementation into browsers was broken, and we experienced a lot of pain from 2015 to now, compliant to FIDO U2F and FIDO 2. So just our experience with another public key authentication protocol showed the test suite was seriously challenging, and interoperability in the end was seriously challenging with various browser implementations. So I think DIDs are even less mature than FIDO. So I would just put that out there as a let's do what we can, but let's not drag everything down into something that can't be delivered in our time frame.
I totally agree, and if I can add, I think this is where engaging the use case partners will help us out, because we want to know what actually is going to drive the requirements too. What do the use case partners actually want? And I think another point that I want to make is that we know that there's two other major fronts that are out there in this space: the mobile driver's licenses and the digital passports, basically driven by AMVA, and then ICAO. And then you have the third front of the verifiable credentials. And I think it's going to take a few generations of solutions to come together. But we got to work with that. We have treaty obligations with the electronic passports. So there's these other battlefronts that we have to take into consideration.
Yeah, and I believe they need to interoperate for a while, because you're not going to take away ICAO's ownership of passports, and you're not going to take away ownership of driver's licenses by driver's license issuing bureaus. So we need interoperability across the technologies in our minds.
You're absolutely right. And the point that I've been making to myself is that the verifiable credential model is more of a mental schema than a technical specification. It's just another way of refactoring kind of this similar stuff, and we got to figure out how this works together. I see, Dimitri, your hand is up again, or is it still up? Do you have another comment?
You know what? It just shows that I don't know how to unraise my hand.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Well, just like me informing dial-in people to enter who they are in the chat. That didn't work out either. Okay. Just mindful of the time. We had till 11:30. We can go for a few minutes over, but maybe I'll just say the potential use case partners. To those points earlier, one of the things, we're going to put a call out to the community through our various forums to see who is interested in monitoring or participating or even being guinea pigs, if you will, in the use cases. We were very careful in the statement of work not to put in specific departments, agencies, or organizations, because we know that if we did that, they could end up being a dependency if another priority gets pulls them off, and we didn't want to have that. But that's the other thing that I hope to be managing, is doing a matchmaking. I know we've had several federal agencies interested in the security clearance. And again, I don't want to speak on behalf of the departments that have expressed interest, but that is something that I want you to make aware of. And also, if you have any potential use case partners or stakeholders that are interested, just let us know. We just kind of want to have a tally of who wants to be plugged into this. I know Alberta's interested, Ontario's interested, I know possibly Quebec's interested. So again, I'm not speaking on behalf, but we just want to use this as an ability to catalyze the ecosystem. Does anybody want to make any comments? I know, Chris, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to make one point with the interoperability, is that again, as I was involved, early on and with the Sovereign and the Hyperledger Indy, and one of the interoperability challenges is there were a couple different groups that ended up innovating. And one of the areas of challenge with interoperability ended up to be the agent-to-agent communications. So the DIDs may have been all understood, and the underlying pieces may have been agreed on, but how the different agents would communicate to each other, agent to agent, was a challenge with interoperability. So I'm not giving a solution. I'm just indicating with Indy that's something that I saw as was one of the challenges.
Yeah, totally aware. And I actually have my informal running tally of my level of confidence on the pieces of the stack. Like I'm putting DIDs at like pretty much 98 to 100%. As you said, it's still an early specification, but pretty optimistic. That's my naive assessment. Anything above that, my confidence is less. And the thing is that when I feel like my confidence is less, that means there's more of a requirement, not only to be standards based, but the ability to pivot if that stuff doesn't play out. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to work that out during the course. And again, making this collective knowledge. Again, like I learned a lot from like Anil's initiative, just sitting in on the workshops and saying, oh, okay, there's some interesting, some different schools of thought here, and oh, that didn't work, conceptually my tidy diagrams that I have in my mind, and say, oh, that doesn't really work, and oh, there's something interesting there. That's what I'm hoping that we can learn collectively. I'll just motor through the other things. The other thing is just we want to make sure that we leverage the other initiatives. And I know Pierre Roberge, you're on the line here. Maybe you can give like a 1-minute overview of the Digital Identity Lab. Like that's one of the things that we want to be able to leverage. And not quite sure yet, but Pierre, just give yourself like a 30 seconds to a minute.
Pierre just had to leave. Hey, Tim.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, we saw his Lego background. I think it made an impression, but we want to leverage that. Basically, they've gotten considerable funding from the government of Quebec. I think there's some other funding as well, but to set up the notion of some sort of sandbox. And I know, Peter, if you're still on the line, we can talk about that a little bit later. But the other thing that's really starting to come together fast and furious is I said ISED had a bunch of digital infrastructure workshops over the summertime. They're putting together recommendations, and they're working on proof of concepts. And I know Mario is on the line. I don't want to put you on the hook, but or if Paul Jackson's on the line, maybe you can give us a quick update on that.
Paul, did you want to take this or?
Yeah, sure. I guess. So yeah. So we're looking at, I guess, kind of like Tim, where you're referring to kind of like the public utility aspect. We're looking to explore through the proof of concept how to enable the ability to issue and verify digital credentials or verifiable credentials. Make this kind of like kind of exploring the approaches for doing that. So we're intending to do that over the next 18 months. Because for us, like a big part, like to really kickstart the economy and stuff like that. If we can enable more businesses and individuals to be able to participate digitally, this is something that would be very helpful considering the current environment. So that's why we're exploring enabling that ability. And so this would obviously be coexistent, and we want this interoperable with private sector solutions as well. But that. So we're looking to do that. That's what we're exploring, and we're also looking at educational approaches for helping people become more proficient with verifiable credentials. So those are the things that we're looking at right now. Yeah, so that's a big focus for us over the 18 months, as well as we're looking into business banking use cases as well.
Yeah, and if I can add, like again, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but we see this as actually feeding into a broader digital trust agenda that's forming. So we just want to make sure that what we learn will inform those proofs of concepts, or maybe even become the proof of concepts. So that's something still a work in progress. I know you're finalizing some stuff as we speak. And we'll see where that goes. And then the sandboxes. Peter, I don't know if Peter Watkins is still on the line. I know that you've been doing some work with the ICCS.
I've been here. It's a really interesting conversation. So, what would you like me to add?
Yeah, you've been talking about like the work that you're doing with the ICCS now that you're part of them, and with the sandboxes and how that might fit into the picture.
Yeah, I think the ambition there, and I think some of you on the call have been socialized to this, but for those that haven't, supporting the Joint Councils, which is a Fed-Prov territorial government body in Canada, there's an interest in accelerating progress on digital ID, and a construct that's of interest to do that is to find a way to set up a shared experience sandbox where all of the various government departments that are implicated in these pictures could simulate their roles as issuers, and then do that in a way, and I don't think we quite have the answer to this. Tim might be on the road to it, and Paul and the others, but we'd also like to see demonstration services be connected to that. So issuing for issuing's sake doesn't really do anything. It's like, what are the services? So I don't know how that collaboration is going to come together. I think we're all optimistic that these dots will begin to connect, and we've been collaborating with Pierre at the National Lab. He unfortunately had to step out this morning in Quebec, and so I think there's a sense of real optimism, and there's certainly positive energy going in this direction. And exactly how that wires up to this work that we've been talking about today is something that perhaps is emergent. And Tim, I think we'd all be very optimistic if there are a way to begin to connect those dots towards a more open, visible, public, experiential sandbox thing. We just show what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's great. And for me, the key takeaway here, like for me, the imperative is that we're collaborating or working together as Canada. It's governments, public sector, private sector. And the reason we have like a keen interest in having this collaboration on quote unquote Canada is that we also have quite a number of international interactions, like through Digital Nations, OECD, the World Bank, you name it. And we want to be able to at least present a cogent vision to the rest of the world, so to speak. Doesn't mean the feds own that agenda, but I think it's our responsibility to be the conduit to make sure that we have a coordinated approach to rest of the world. And one of the messages that I've been saying is that globally, we're 0.5% of the population, and so and I think we have a real opportunity to figure this out as a country. We have 99.5% of the population that might take advantage of what we're doing. That might sound a bit self-serving and presumptive, but I think a lot of other countries are really looking to what Canada's doing, and I'd say part of it's due to our unique makeup, our federal, provincial, territorial structure, and a confederation that gives us a really interesting perspective. So anyway, enough of that. I just wanted to give you that sense. Going on to I guess the other point is I'm always keen on establishing a tempo for these projects, just as a touch point. And I want to put some thought into we could set up bilateral with the with each of the vendors, but also a collaborative touch point, like on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. And I think, going back to some of the conversation earlier, this does not prevent the vendors from actually working together on these things as well. And again, we don't have to be a bottleneck on that. So just mindful, we are kind of going over time. I'll just open it up for discussion, and then we'll call it a wrap after that. And I think Chris, you still got your hand up. Either you've got a question or you haven't figured to put the hand down, whatever that might be. I'll give you first dibs if you have any questions or comments. Oh, the hand has disappeared. Okay, and Neil's got his hand up, so you figured out how to put your hand up and down. That's good.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tim. Just a quick question regarding touch points and things like that. Is there, we expect to have a similar to this, a broader cohort level kickoff for our release 1 and release 2, probably sometime in the first week of November. I'm going to stay away from our election day. I definitely want everybody to vote. So November 3rd is out of the picture, but 4th and 5th, we expect to bring our companies. And obviously, as usual, you and Paul and the TBS and ISED folks who've been great partners will obviously be invited. One of the things that I was wanted to bounce an idea off of you was, given the shared interest in interoperability, would there be any interest in perhaps having a third day where our companies, as well as the companies from your portfolio, could get together on basically perhaps collaboration approaches, things that they could work on that are of mutual interest, that would sort of level set and help the broader community that is working on interop. We don't need to have I just wanted to tee that up as a data point and a question. I don't need an answer right now, but we would love to do that, and if you're open to that.
So time frame, that's November? November?
Yeah. So the key there is basically my phase 2s are already under contract, but my release 2 cycle will more than likely be under contract only the late October. And that actually, I have use cases in there that are driven very much from ISED, in particular cross-border movement of oil and gas. So I want to make sure those companies are on board and actively working on it. So it is going to be probably November 4th, 5th for internal, but maybe the Friday the 6th as a joint work session.
So my initial answer is totally interested, not formally part of our contracts. We can't oblige our vendors, but we'll work to it. I see there's huge benefits here, so we'll work with again, ISED, our partners, to see if we can make this totally valuable on both sides. So it's a no-brainer to attend and participate. But I can't formally commit anything yet. But as I said, the goal of this project is just to increase the surface area of what we're doing to enable collaboration. So I'm totally keen.
Absolutely. Obviously, needless to say, regardless of whether it's a yeah or nay, you all as government will continue to be invited to those events.
Yep. Fabulous and mindful. I don't want us to be a bottleneck. So ISED is doing a lot of work in this space as well. So probably they'll be the primary contact. We'll figure it out. But
no worries.
Yeah, that's great. Any other comments? I think Anil still has his hand up, but he probably hasn't figured out how to put it down. See if there's anybody else. Okay, that's a wrap. I am still recording the session. I've recorded it just to keep it as a record. I'm not so sure whether how we'll share it or not, but at least we have it. Really appreciate everybody attending the call, and I say the hard work begins, and but it's going to be hard work, but exciting work. And as I said, I'm totally excited that you've gotten to know each other. We're building this great community here, and we're actually going to be delivering real stuff. And again, I want to set up those points so we maintain the tempo. We'll try to manage as much as we can via the GitHub repo, so you'll see stuff there. And feel free to reach out to me or my colleagues directly if you have any questions or clarifications. So I think with that, I just wanted to check to see the chats if there's anything else. I think we're good. So for me, that's a wrap. I'll open it up if anybody has any other closing comments or anything that they want to talk before we wrap up the meeting.
Thanks, Tim. Good kickoff meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks all.
Thanks,
Okay,
everyone.
bye.
Tim.
Bye.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah,
Appreciate
it was
it.
our pleasure. Bye-bye.